I, 40 female, was married to Chris, 42 male, for 15 years. We have 3 children, Alex, teen male, Lexi, tween female, and Spencer, tween male. I filed for divorce 2 years ago because Chris is obsessed with moving to a warmer climate. During COVID, he began working from home, and by the end of the year, his company decided to give up office space, and now he had the opportunity to live anywhere. Years ago, we agreed that we would move when we retired. Unfortunately, he became obsessed with this idea, and I refused to entertain it until our kids were done with school and I could get my pension. We tried therapy, but he would not compromise like buying a vacation home. It was full-time in the warm location or nothing. Finally, it got bad enough that it was the only thing he ever focused on. It absolutely destroyed our marriage, and the resentment is strong. He was confident he would get custody of our kids because he makes a significant amount more than me and his family is pretty wealthy. He was also sure that Alex would want to move with him because he loves the place my ex wants to move to and plans to attend college in that state. He knows I would never be far from any of my kids and hoped to divide and conquer, and that would force me to go too. My ex was pretty much laughed out of court by the judge and told he could not uproot his children because he wants to live in warmer weather. He wanted custody, but the court looked at the children's best interest and we were ultimately awarded joint legal custody. Now he has to work it out with me since he needs my approval to take the kids, which will never happen. He's tried to pressure Alex, but to our surprise, Alex is not interested in his father's bribes. He went as far as buying a house there and met a local woman about 6 months after we filed. She's pressuring him to move full-time. He can only afford a 1-bedroom apartment in our hometown right now. Our kids don't want to go with him because they have to sleep on an air mattress and pull-out bed and it's uncomfortable. The best scenario is for our kids to have 2 homes that are comfortable and close by, and I'm very aware of this but still believe it should be in our home state. He wanted to meet for dinner the other night and I agreed. He presented me with a new plan to move, including a brand new home for me, and offered me more alimony than I was awarded, basically the rent he currently pays for the apartment. Additionally, he offered an in-law suite or apartment for my mom to stay in or move with us. What he presented was better than any scenario he presented when we were married. I could have a much more comfortable life if I agreed to these terms. They would be legally binding, but I still shut it down because this is the reason we got divorced. He's arguing that I'm ruining his life, and I think he did that all by himself. He thinks I'm being vindictive and that an outside opinion might be helpful. So, am I the idiot for refusing to move? Edit. My youngest child has a learning disability and is thriving in his current placement, and I do not want to remove him from his school and teacher. Not the idiot. How could a partner be so focused on living somewhere that he's willing to give up his marriage and his children? This guy is nuts and has his priorities backward. But I bet he met someone there a long time before the divorce. That is the only way it makes sense. I don't think so. There's a really good chance that the local woman is a rebound or is going to ruin him worse when she files. I am so sorry, OP. He destroyed his family over a personal obsession and I bet his kids know it. I bet they know this has nothing to do with acting in their best interest. It's just a selfish desire. He thought he'd win custody because he makes more money. Turns out the court didn't like uprooting your children so Dad can work on his tan. OP, I don't think you're being vindictive. You don't want to move. You already offered reasonable compromises, moving at retirement, having a summer home. He was the one where it's all or nothing. He's missing the point completely. This isn't about money, you being spiteful or vindictive or wanting anything from him. This is about the fact that you have a life where you are. He doesn't see you or the kids as whole humans, just as accessories to be dragged along to wherever he wants to be. Yeah, dude's lost his damn mind. He's met someone there but wants to move his ex-wife down and ex-mother-in-law down because he couldn't buy his kids off to force your hand. He sounds like he's had a serious mental break and he's fixating on one thing. He needs to get his priorities straight. He's not the center of the universe. You all do not need to revolve around him like the sun. Here's some background information on the problem. I, 25 female, hosted dinner a few weeks ago at my place. Everyone was having fun and the topic of moving out and charging your adult children rent came up. I'm not American, and if I'm being honest, I didn't even know this was a common thing. I told my friends that in Brazil this would be looked down upon and that I didn't know a single person who paid rent to their parents. I have 3 grown sisters who live at home and no one pays a cent. I finished my speech by saying that it's fine if they disagree with me, but I personally would never charge my children rent if I wasn't struggling. My friend Amy, 27 female, said that someone from a third world country wouldn't understand and that my sister shouldn't freeload. I told her it wasn't like that. My parents love to have them around, and it's common, if not expected, to live with your parents until you get married or find a long-time partner. Amy replied by saying that my culture is backward. I tried to not get offended by her choice of words and said, agree to disagree. Back to the present. I hosted again last night and told my friends that my older sister is engaged. Amy proceeds to ask if she's finally going to grow up now or if mommy and daddy will pay rent for her elsewhere. I was sick of her little comments, not the only thing she said these past weeks, and said that no, my sister is buying her own condo with my brother-in-law and that maybe she could do the same soon if her parents didn't charge her $1,000 plus utilities every month. This erupted into a fight and dinner was cut short. Some of my friends think I should apologize to Amy to keep the peace, but I don't think I should. Am I in the wrong here? She called Brazil a third world country? What an idiot. Screw her for her third world and backward culture comments. Don't entertain bigots. I don't understand how your friends are split about this. Amy was being insulting and rude and she's the one who owes an apology to you. My friends are torn because Amy is very sensitive about housing. She had to go back to her parents after breaking up with her boyfriend and is ashamed of it. I thought that she would feel better knowing that this is very common in a lot of cultures. But what do I know? LOL. Amy has been very rude to me ever since she found out that my parents helped me pay for the down payment on my condo, and I'm growing tired of it. Oh, I'm sure your comment hit too close to home. She's jealous. Amy is ignorant and is unaware that not every place in the world is like the soccer mom suburb that she grew up in. At the next party, I was going to point out Brazil on a map. Agree, calling OP's culture a third world necessity to survive while implying they're spoiled for getting help on their first home and that the sister is a child pretty much gave it away. If she really did mean it, it must be utterly humiliating knowing that your friend from a poor third world country with family living at home still got more financial support to start their adulthood than you did. Screw her. I, 34 female, live in the US. I'm a professional makeup artist and I work for a small company that provides makeup for people for things like weddings, proms, photo shoots, etc. Basically, I do their makeup for them. I've had this job for the past 10 years. First of all, let me clarify that this has nothing to do with skin tone. This was over skin texture and condition. I had a client yesterday who I assume was a mid-teen that wanted makeup done for a school dance. She made the appointment through the company I work for and I didn't meet her or see her at all before she came in to get her makeup done. Long story short, her skin was in terrible condition and I didn't feel comfortable putting makeup on it. She had many open wounds on her face, which I assume were acne scars. She also had a rash around her eyes and mouth, and I still don't know what it was, but it was light red patches around her eyes and mouth. I was genuinely worried she might have a skin condition or something that's contagious. Yes, my company sanitizes everything, and I know if it's done properly nothing should spread, but to be honest, it still weirded me out to put makeup brushes over her wounds and what I think was a rash, then later use those same brushes on other clients. It just didn't sit well with me. I also don't think makeup on her skin would be good for her in general. Foundation going into open wounds isn't necessarily recommended and might have made her skin even worse. I tried to be very nice to the girl and explain that I couldn't do her makeup because of the risk of infection. I made it seem like my only concern was her own skin health, since I didn't want to seem mean and basically say, I don't want you spreading diseases around to my clients. I was very careful with my words and honestly did my absolute best not to offend her, but I still had to be firm in the fact that I wasn't comfortable doing her makeup. The company offered her a full refund and even waived the cancellation cost, but she insisted she needed her makeup done. My manager ended up sort of siding with me and not forcing me to do it, but talked to her and asked if she'd be okay with just eyeshadow and not a full face, which I still didn't really want to do, but if she agreed to that, I would have. She kept insisting on a full face and made a big scene, ended up calling me a witch and a Karen, then eventually stormed out. Should I have just done her makeup and not said anything? Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. She needs a dermatologist, not a makeup artist. You're likely not the first to turn her down. Professionals aren't about just money. You were keeping your other client's health in mind as well as caring about what would happen to her with the foundation in open wounds. Any true professional would let her down easily and then show her the door. That is a safety and health issue. I don't think it's ethical to do it anyway when you have clear concerns. The chemicals in the makeup could also cause them to become infected and cause more problems for the poor girl. You were doing the right thing by protecting your other clients. I feel sympathy for her, but on the other hand, it's pretty selfish of her not to understand that her skin issue could spread illnesses to other people. You are the idiot for being motivated by fear of it being contagious. As someone with eczema, a skin condition that isn't contagious, I live my life with people like you who just look down at me when I talk to them. Having skin conditions is already very painful because as soon as everyone sees you, they're unattracted. That poor kid. She probably just wanted to look pretty for a night and thought you could help, but you refused. I'm also concerned that you don't use disposable tools. Every makeup artist I've seen uses disposable sponges, brushes, etc., and a mixing palette so they aren't dipping used items back into the product. Agree, I've never heard of anyone refusing to do makeup because they had acne. You totally shamed a teenager, probably damaging her self-esteem. You said it yourself. My company sanitizes everything, and I know if it's done properly, nothing should spread. That means that this was all you judging the girl. You humiliated a teen girl, and her only wrongdoing was having acne. You are very mean. My ex-husband, who I'll call by a fake name Tony, and I broke up 2 years ago after 26 years of marriage. We have 4 children together. Due to the stupidity of the time and social pressure, I added my husband's last name to my name. So all my documents like identification, driver's license, passport, all credit cards, and voter registration card have his last name at the end. We ended amicably even more due to the circumstances. He's gay and we divorced. Honestly, it would suck to have to change everything, go to government agencies, pay for everything new and go to the bank to change everything. So I didn't want to take out his last name, but I introduced myself by my maiden name. Only in the documents is it this name. Tony is currently engaged to a guy and they'll get married next year. The situation that happened was, our son and his family decided to travel and invited me. He asked for my ID to make the reservations. A few days later, me, Tony and fiancé were at my grandson's party. Our son said jokingly in the conversation circle that he couldn't believe that until today I hadn't changed my last name. I laughed, saying that I was too lazy to rush to change everything that had this name on it. Tony started to ask if I really hadn't changed my name if I didn't think that being engaged to someone else wasn't the best time to change it, and he insisted that it was weird of me. I just replied, unless you go in my place, spend hours and hours in line and pay hundreds for it, I wouldn't do it in the near future. We stopped talking and the party flowed smoothly. Later, he called me and said I was acting weird and a jerk by refusing to change the name, which he said was uncomfortable. I asked our son and he said he understands my side of not wanting to do this, but he understands Tony's side of being uncomfortable with his ex using his last name after the divorce. So I asked for an outside opinion. Am I the idiot? It's not like I never planned to change it, I just don't want to go through it right now. If having his ex share a last name with him bothers him that much, then maybe he should take his fiancée's name after they marry. You are not the idiot, OP. After 26 years and 4 children, this is your legal name as much as it is his. Totally agree with this. Don't let anyone pressure you or make you feel guilty about this. It's absurd. You were married to the guy for 2.5 decades and have 4 children together. It's already a pain to change the name without all those things. Good grief, of all the things to be mad about. It is normal to not change their last name after a divorce. I know women who have gotten remarried and didn't change their name even then because they wanted the same name as their children. And Tony is an idiot. The name change is part of the final divorce decree, so when was the time for him to speak up if he wasn't comfortable with OP keeping the name? No one gets to tell you when or why to change now. My husband and I have been living off mostly frozen meals and takeout for the last few years, but as a New Year's resolution we wanted to start making more home-cooked meals. This was his idea, and I was all for it. We planned a big meal to kick it off with a roasted chicken and lots of sides we could save and eat throughout the week. The day before, I prepped a bunch of veggies for sides and the spices the day before. I grew them but have never really used them for cooking. The day to cook everything came, and he said he wanted to go hang out with his friends, which was fine, but I asked that he be back by a certain time so we could start making dinner together. That time came and went, and I started cooking the chicken, but asked him to be back to help with the sides. Again, that didn't happen, and by the time everything was done, he was still out drinking with buddies, and when I called, somewhat angry, he hung up on me. I took all the food and threw it into the dumpster. I know it was a waste of perfectly good food, and I'm wrong for that, but I was so mad that this thing we were supposed to be doing together was just me cooking while he went out and got drunk with friends. He thinks I'm the idiot for throwing everything out in anger. My reasoning is that he wanted to start home cooking meals, but then bailed the second I asked him to help. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Did he actually just expect to come home to a fully cooked meal after you planned to do it together, and he bailed to go drinking, then hung up on you? What a loser. Given my temperament, that man is lucky OP threw the meal out, rather than putting it all on the front step for his intoxicated self and the local raccoons to find, and changing the locks. Everyone's the idiot. I totally get your anger, but that was such a waste of food. I would have cooked it, sat down and had myself a nice meal without him, not called to tell him it was done, and when done, cleaned up, put the food away, and then if he asked, tell him he's welcome to make himself a plate. I would have not wasted the food and wouldn't have given him the satisfaction of making me angry. I don't know. People are getting very precious about food for one meal. She didn't throw out the entire fridge. I bet the sight of it nauseated her completely. It's not food after that, it symbolises betrayal and disappointment. This behaviour of his might be a pattern, and it's likely a relationship-ending situation.